Hey everybody, welcome back. It has been far too long since we've last posted. Lots of issues with like personal life, like my normal day job. Where I would normally work, we're on a fast track program, and we're trying to get some products out into the world, and lots of 10-12 hour days and weekends and all that. So I'm hoping that settles down a little bit here. I do want to get back into living my own life and doing things that interest me outside of my normal day job. So the Jaguar, we have been making some progress. We have the MS3 communicating with all of the little systems. So we got the ECU on the transmission and the regular MS3 system. They are communicating. We have a bass tune on both systems. I'm not going to go into super details on that because nobody really cares about a bass tune, right? It is going to change. The bass tune is basically the example tune, slightly modified to the Jaguar XJS system, right? So the bass tune is really sporty in terms of timing. The example tune they give you, that the MS3 system says base your tune on this. So we decrease timing a lot. Little things like that. Regardless, we're getting there. But learning a lot. One of the big things that I discovered is the way I thought the system would work between software and hardware is not necessarily the way that it actually works. So I had to do some rewiring. Just lots of issues and learning things and finding problems and just everything wrong, just chaos. I know in the last video I complained a lot about my trigger wheel setup and how the systems weren't matched and everything else. And then actually running the system, we lost sync, right? So my fears came true. We went down a whole nother road of buying a Holly trigger wheel, which is much better matched to the sensors, the VR sensors that you would typically see in the automotive industry. So I'll go over some of those details here shortly out in the garage. Okay guys, so here is the crank trigger installed on the front of the crankshaft pulley system, and it's just held on by these two bolts here. Again, we had to drill this out a little bit and rebalance and everything, but it fits good enough. There's a little bit of slop in there. I used some calipers to get it as evenly installed as possible. Then I just taped the protractor on there so I can get some timing marks. And again, I don't like this wheel. I absolutely don't like it at all. I don't like how big these heads are. They're much larger than the sensor. I also don't think the sensor that I have is the best sensor. So we are currently losing trigger sync with the ECU. And I think that's a combination of these are too big and this sensor's not the best sensor. So I do plan on buying a different trigger wheel. There's an MSD unit that has much smaller teeth, and I'm going to buy an aftermarket one of these that's not related to the Jaguar system at all, and hopefully that will give me a stronger return for the MS3, and hopefully that will help me from losing sync. So during this whole process of learning about the MS3 and how everything works, found out I'm just a complete idiot when it comes to learning new things. I reread the one issue I was having with this project is I wasn't getting the timing signals I was expecting. So I reread the MS3 hardware and software setup. And so the way that the MS3 works is you have sparks signals. For the MS3, actually have spark A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, right? So you have 8 possible spark systems. And how the system, how MS3 works is it sparks A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, right? So when I first started looking at this and poking on things, I noticed that there was a setting in the MS3 software where you can set the firing order. Now, that's not actually the way the MS3 models the firing order. It always does A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. That is how it always, it's hardware. So the hardware defines the software. It's not the other way around. So I had this wired a little bit differently, and I was thinking that the software would fire the correct spark based on how you had it set up. It's not the case. I had to do some rewiring. So I have my 6 coil drivers here for my two separate 3 coil drivers, right? And so if we go back here, I have to do some modifications to this wiring diagram, but you have your coil driver A, coil driver B, and I'm going to have to redo this wiring diagram. But basically, what I ended up doing was rerouting this connector to match the firing order for A, B, C, D, E, F to the firing order of the Jaguar XJS. So the firing order for the normal system with its distributor is 1A, 6B, 5A, 2B, 3A, 4B, 6A, 1B, 2A, 5B, 4A, 3B. So if you notice, if you half that and stack them, you have your 16A, 16B, 25A, 25B, 34A, 34B. So in a wasted spark system, spark A is this guy, spark B, spark C, spark D, spark E, spark F. And in a wasted spark system, you would have 1A, 6B, 5A, 2B, 3A, 4B firing with these being wasted. And then you would have 6A, 1B, 2A, 5B, 4A, 3B firing with these guys being wasted. So this is how the new system is going to be set up. Okay guys, so here we are actually looking at the system installed inside the MS3, and just show you kind of some of the things, right? So car's not running, so air fuel ratio is going to be dorked up. Coolant and air temperatures are reading appropriate values. All right, so again, we just got notional things in here set up, ready to go. Start looking at things. Here's my ignition options. It's a folding edge, so on and so forth. I'm not going to get too far into the details right now because we are having an issue where it is not syncing with the system. So if we go to diagnostics and high-speed loggers and we look at composite logger here, we'll go ahead and we'll hit start. And I'll go ahead and crank the car over. Now, if you look down here, you see these little red blocks. That's where it's losing sync with the system. And when the system loses sync, it won't actually spark or trigger anything. or fire anything off. So I have a little bit more work to do on trying to figure out what that issue actually is for getting this thing synced up. This is the new Holley trigger wheel. It is the 7.5-inch trigger wheel. What I like about this wheel is it comes painted, so it has a little bit of rust protection. Also, the from the other wheel that we have that's currently on the car, I know I complained a lot about it, and I had a lot of issues with it. It wasn't balanced. The actual teeth were very wide. I had a lot of issues with it. Now, this wheel was quite a bit more. It was $150 more than the current wheel that we have. So this was about $180 purchased from the Holley website. But what's nice about this wheel is the teeth are thin in this direction here, and they're wider in this direction here, right? So what's nice about that is if there's any variation in the way that the thing runs, it's what you are expecting in terms of teeth for your trigger wheels, right? You want a wider tooth in this direction so you cover your sensor better in this direction, and you want thinner in this direction so your sensors match up, right? The other thing is these come from the factory a little balanced, and I'll show you here on the wheel. It's pretty good. On the balancer, it's pretty good. It does have some heft to it. So the one thing that we are going to need to be careful about is getting this thing as centered as possible on the rotation axes, right? I mean, this has got some heft. This is probably a pound and a half, maybe. So any variation in the center line from the crankshaft, it is very possible that you could damage something if you don't get this just right. So I do have some hardware that I'm going to try to make sure that this is as centered as possible. The other thing we purchased for this setup is this. This is a Dorman product here. It's 505-5406. It is basically it's the VR sensor, a speed sensor, whatever you want to say. It's for a transmission, right? Did not expect this to be as large as it is. There was not a very good drawing of the product and description of the product, other than just it's for a transmission. It's a little bigger than I wanted. I think we can make it work. The one thing I don't like, it's almost perfect, but the trigger wheel is ever so slightly thinner. You probably can't see it. It's ever so slightly thinner than the actual sensor itself, which is fine. We should still get a good zero crossing. We don't have the opposite problem that we did with the old setup, where I think that's part of the reason why I think we're losing the MS3 is losing sync, is the old sensor wheels to trigger and sensor were just so mismatched, it's losing sync. So this will work, I believe, but we'll find out. All right, guys. Well, that's it for today. Just troubles and issues and everything else, and excuses. We are so far behind on this project right now that I am not even keeping track of the schedule. Hopefully, as soon as we get this thing to fire up in the next couple of weeks, months, years, whatever that time frame is, we'll revisit our schedule and we'll try to get this thing done on the road, driving around, again, the Jaguar itself, it didn't run since before I bought it. I'm sure it wasn't working right. The reason why it has 30-something thousand miles, and I've said this before. So we only broke a broken thing, and the goal is to fix this. However that fix looks like, we'll get there. All right, guys. Have a good day.